The Galactic Council had long declared Earth destroyed, reduced to rubble by the same forces that crushed other lesser civilizations. But in the silence, Earth's war machine waits, ready to make its return. The Council will soon learn that their assumption of humanity's demise was the gravest mistake of all. The Galactic Council had been silent for years, not because there was peace, but because the galaxy had decided Earth no longer mattered. Their most recent conquests had wiped the planet from the map. Earth's once proud cities, now nothing but ruins, had been erased in a flash of devastation. The Council had been certain. They had watched as humanity's final signals faded into oblivion. The fate of the blue planet was sealed. "We've crushed them," the Berelos counselor said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Earth is a smoldering ruin, a forgotten world. Our work here is done. They were nothing." "Nothing," agreed the Vraxa counselor, his tentacles twitching with satisfaction. "No threat left. It's time we move on to more important matters." The last remnants of humanity were wiped out in one fell swoop. Laughter erupted around the council, a sound of triumph shared between alien leaders who had seen countless civilizations fall before them. Earth was no different, or so they thought. But on Earth, deep within an old forgotten bunker beneath the crumbled ruins of a once bustling metropolis, something stirred. For years, humanity had remained in the shadows, silent in their refusal to submit, refusing to let the galaxy know they were alive. Earth's greatest weapon, long dormant, was waiting, and it was never meant to be mercy. The galaxy had misjudged the humans. They had only been waiting for the right moment to return. Captain Jake Hall stood in the command center, staring at the massive screen that flickered with old Earth technologies, relics that the galaxy had long deemed obsolete. The room buzzed. With energy, a low hum of systems coming back online. Hall's fingers hovered over the controls, ready for action. "Status report," he commanded, his voice echoing in the chamber. Lieutenant Sanya's voice came through the comms, her tone steady but taut with anticipation. "All systems online, Captain. The war machine is fully functional. We are ready." Hall didn't respond immediately. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the control panel, his mind racing. They thought Earth was gone. They thought it had been destroyed, burned away with the rest of the worthless species. But Earth had hidden its greatest asset, its war machine, underground, waiting for the day it would rise again. "We don't have much time. The Council will know something is wrong," Hall said, his voice cold with resolve. Sanya nodded. "They'll be looking for us, but they'll never see it coming." Back in the council chamber, the aliens were still basking in their imagined victory. They hadn't expected a threat from Earth again. They had erased it from their minds, along with the other forgotten species they had crushed. Their arrogance had blinded them to the truth. The Berelos counselor was still gloating. "This galaxy will know our power. The humans will never rise again. Let's take our rightful place." But just as the words left his mouth, the lights in the council chamber flickered. A ripple of unease washed over the room, as the air seemed to thicken with a sudden shift. The screens began to flicker. Too, their usual calm replaced with chaos. Data surged across the screens faster than the counselors could comprehend, faster than their best systems could keep up. "What's happening?" the Vraxa counselor growled, his voice now laced with the first hints of fear. This can't be right." A low rumble echoed through the room, a sound that made the very foundation of the chamber vibrate. The holographic displays began to glitch, warping in and out of focus. And then a message appeared. It wasn't from any known ship. It wasn't from any known system. "Earth's war machine has returned," the words flashed on the screen, haunting in their simplicity. For a moment, the council was silent, stunned into disbelief. On Earth's flagship, Captain Hall's fingers slammed down on the launch button. The massive pulse cannon, a weapon of unimaginable power, fired once again. The light from the pulse beam was blinding, a flash that illuminated the distant stars. As the beam rippled through space, the alien fleets that had once mocked Earth's might found themselves defenseless. The pulse was a force of nature, unstoppable and lethal. The alien council had no idea what was coming for them. They had dismissed Earth, and now they would pay the price. The Beryllos councillor's face twisted in panic as the screens showed the flickering images of their fleets being obliterated in real time. It was not a quick death. No, Earth was, teaching them the slow, painful lesson of what it meant to underestimate humanity. Impossible, the Vraxar councillor muttered, his voice barely a whisper. How are they? The laughter from before had turned into guttural, panicked gasps. The council had no answers. Their power, their superiority, meant nothing against a force they had not anticipated. The room went dead silent as the war machine of Earth continued its methodical destruction. Back aboard the flagship, Captain Hall watched the destruction unfold. On his screen, his face remained impassive, the only sign of emotion the subtle tightening of his jaw. This was the moment he had waited for. This was the moment Earth was going to show the galaxy that they had underestimated humanity's silence. And as the alien fleet burned, the words echoed in his mind. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. The alien fleet was no more than a collection of floating debris. Their once mighty ships, capable of wiping out entire civilizations, were now just pieces of twisted metal and fading energy. The pulse from Earth's war machine had done its work. The galaxy was silent. Not a single alien ship had escaped the wrath of the ancient weapon humanity had kept hidden for centuries. Back aboard Earth's flagship, Captain Jake Hall stood before the command center's massive viewport, watching the debris of the alien fleet drift into the cold expanse of space. There was no joy in his heart. The mission was complete, but the cost of this victory would never be fully understood. He had no illusions about what this meant. Earth had made its mark on the galaxy, but that mark would come with consequences. "Status update," Hall said, his voice as steady as always, though his mind raced with the implications of what had just transpired. "All systems are functioning as expected, Captain," Lieutenant Sanya replied, her tone firm, though tinged with awe. "The weapon is fully operational, and the fleet's destruction is confirmed." Hall nodded, but his gaze remained fixed on the stars. "It's done," he said quietly. "But this is only the beginning." The crew was silent, understanding what he meant. Earth had not just won a battle, they had declared their return. The galaxy would now look at Earth differently, but not with admiration. No, they would see humanity as a threat. And the galaxy's most powerful civilizations would not forget the lesson learned today. "We need to get ready," Hall said, turning to face his crew. "The Galactic Council will not take this lying down. They will regroup, and they will come for us." Sanya's eyes darkened, her expression serious. "What do you suggest, Captain?" "Prepare for retaliation," Hall replied. "We don't know how long we have before they retaliate, but we can be ready for it. Humanity is no longer a backwater planet. We need to start planning for the future, not just for defense, but for offense. And we need to find allies, ones who understand what we're capable of." Far across the galaxy, in the remnants of the once proud Galactic Empire, the councillors sat in stunned silence. The holographic screens that had once displayed their power now flickered with chaotic images. Ships burned. The battlefield was littered with the remains of their fleet. The power that had once given them control over hundreds of worlds was now nothing but a distant memory. "What are we going to do?" The Beryllos councillor's voice was a broken whisper. His many-jointed fingers clutched the edges of his chair as if the entire galaxy was about to slip from his grasp. "We should have killed them when we had the chance!" The Vraxa counselor snarled, his tentacles trembling with rage. They never should have been allowed to live. This is the result of our mistake. The room erupted in voices, all of them speaking at once. Anger, confusion, fear, all emotions that were foreign to a species that had long ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. Now, with their fleets decimated and their empire crumbling, they were desperate for answers. But there were none to be had. "We need to regroup," the Berylos counselor finally said, his voice hoarse. "We cannot allow this to be the end. The humans, they have shown us something we did not expect. We cannot underestimate them again." "But how do we fight a species that has a weapon like that?" another counselor asked, her voice tinged with fear. "They have something we don't even understand. This is beyond anything we've ever seen." The Vraxa counselor slammed his fist onto the table. "We will find them, we will track them down, and we will make them pay for what they've done to us." On Earth's flagship, the crew continued to work in silence, their faces set with determination. There was no celebration. There would be no victory parades. Humanity had won, but at a cost, and the real work had just begun. "Captain," Zanya spoke up, her voice urgent, "I'm picking up strange readings. The council, they're mobilizing." Hall's expression hardened. "How long until we're in their sights?" "We've got a few hours at best," Sanya replied. "They're not wasting any time." Hall turned to his crew. "This is it. We have to prepare for a fight. I want every available resource dedicated to reinforcing our position. They'll be coming, and they won't stop until they finish what they started." Back at the heart of the Galactic Empire, the councillors had made their decision. The galaxy's greatest military force had been defeated, but they were not ready to surrender. They would rebuild. They would gather what forces they had left and come for Earth. They would crush humanity's newfound defiance once and for all. "The humans think they've won," the Vraxa counselor muttered, his voice cold with resolve. "They've shown us their strength, but they've made a fatal mistake. They've drawn attention to themselves, and now we will destroy them." "We can't underestimate them," the Berylos counselor warned. "They've already proven they can hit us where it hurts. We need to be cautious." "Cautious," the Vraxa counselor snapped. "They've shown us their strength, and now we must show them ours. It's time to teach them a lesson." Back aboard Earth's flagship, Hall watched the alien fleets gather. The threat was imminent. Humanity had made its presence known, but that did not guarantee survival. The galaxy had no interest in peaceful coexistence. The Council had made their intentions clear. Earth would be destroyed, but Hall wasn't worried. Humanity had always found a way to survive. And Earth had something that the Council had never accounted for, a deep, unyielding will to fight. The alien ships drew closer. Hall took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the crew. "This is it," he said. "We fight now. We fight for everything, for our planet, for our people, for our future." The crew nodded in unison, their resolve as unshakable as their captains. "We will survive," Hall added, his voice firm and full of purpose. "And when this is over, the galaxy will never forget the name of Earth." The alien fleet was on the move. Despite the devastation humanity had wrought, the Galactic Council was not yet finished. They had regrouped, refocused, and now they were coming for Earth. No longer arrogant, no longer dismissive, the councillors had one objective: wipe humanity from existence before Earth could strike again. On Earth's flagship, Captain Jake Hall stood at the command center, staring at the approaching fleet through the viewport. His face was stoic, but his mind raced. He had seen enough battle to know that this would not be an easy fight. Earth had won once, but this time they were facing an empire that would stop at nothing to ensure their dominance. "Captain," Lieutenant Sanya's voice interrupted his thoughts. "We've detected multiple alien ships entering our sector. They're not alone. There's a full fleet on the way." Hall exhaled slowly, then nodded. "How long until they arrive?" "An hour at most," Sanya replied, her eyes fixed on her console. They've gathered their forces. This is going to be a full-on assault. A tense silence filled the command center. The crew worked swiftly, preparing for battle, but it was clear that this fight would be different from the last. The aliens were angry now, desperate for revenge. They had underestimated humanity once before, and they wouldn't make that mistake again. "We need to move quickly," Hall said, his voice commanding. "Prepare the pulse cannon, full power. I want our weapons ready to fire the moment they come within range." "Understood," Sanya responded, already relaying orders to the crew. Back in the council chambers of the Galactic Empire, the mood was one of fierce determination. The councillors had put their differences aside and focused solely on the task at hand. Earth had thrown down a challenge, and they would answer. "We cannot allow them to live," the Vraxar councillor said, his voice cold with fury. "This is an insult. They've proven their strength, and now we will prove ours. We must end this once and for all." The Berylos councillor, his face twisted in grim resolve, nodded. "The fleet is ready. Our weapons are stronger than before. We will not fail. We will show them what true power looks like," the Vraxar councillor muttered, his tentacles twitching in anger. "This ends now." As the alien fleet approached, Hall surveyed the situation. There was no turning back now. Humanity had made its stand, and it was either victory or extinction. The crew worked with precision, checking every system, running final simulations, ensuring that every detail was in place. "Captain, the enemy fleet is within range," Sanya reported. "We're in their sights now. They've locked onto our position." Hall's jaw tightened. "Fire the pulse cannon, full force." The massive weapon powered up, the hum of energy reverberating through the ship as the pulse cannon gathered its deadly charge. The crew held their breath as the cannon fired, the bright beam of light streaking out into the void, cutting through the emptiness like a thunderclap. The first wave of alien ships, those closest to Earth's flagship, took the brunt of the pulse. Their shields faltered under the intense energy, and then their hulls began to crack. The pulse cannon's destructive power ripped through the alien vessels, sending them into chaos. "Direct hit," Sanya said, her voice filled with a mix of awe and disbelief. "The enemy fleet's front line is in disarray, but the alien fleet didn't stop. They adjusted their strategy, regrouping in the wake of the initial assault. Their ships were large, formidable and heavily armored, but Earth's war machine had proven more than capable of taking them on. Still, the aliens had the advantage of numbers, and they would keep coming until Earth was destroyed." Hall's eyes narrowed. "We have to hit them harder," he turned to the crew. "Prepare the secondary weapon systems. Target their command. Ship, if we take it out, we'll break their command structure. They won't be able to coordinate." Sanya nodded. "Firing sequence initiated. We're ready to fire." In the council chamber, the remaining councillors watched in horror as their forces began to falter. The alien ships were large, powerful, but they were being picked apart by the human war machine. The Vraxar councillor stood, his hands clenched, into fists, watching as his fleet crumbled before his eyes. "This cannot be happening," he muttered. "They should have been no match for us. What kind of power do they have?" "The humans," the Berylos councillor said, his voice cold, "have a power we didn't understand, and now they've proven it. We have to retaliate." "The Vraxar councillor said, his voice shaking with frustration, "we will not be made to look weak." Back on Earth's flagship, the situation was becoming increasingly dire. The pulse cannon had done its job, but the enemy was relentless. Earth had barely dented their forces. Hall's mind raced, weighing the options, looking for a way to tip the scales in humanity's favor. "Captain, we've lost several ships in the fleet," Sanya reported, her voice tinged with urgency. "They're hitting us harder than expected." Hall's eyes met hers. "We need more power. Prepare the prototype weapon. It's time we show them everything we've got." Sanya hesitated. "Are you sure, Captain? It's a risk. If this fails—" "I know," Hall interrupted, his voice calm but firm. "But we don't have any other choice. With the prototype weapon now online, Earth's flagship unleashed its final attack. The weapon, still in its experimental phase, was a gamble, but it was their last hope. The energy that it released was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A pulse of raw, destructive power, so concentrated that it tore through the fabric of space itself. The shockwave from the weapon hit the alien fleet with the force of 1,000 suns. Ships exploded in a flash of light, their remains scattered across the void. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a message, and that message was clear. Earth would not go down without a fight. The Alien Council's voice, once full of arrogance, was now drowned in the chaos of their failing fleet. Their ships were disintegrating, and the survivors scattered, desperate to escape the sheer force of Earth's power. As the last of the alien ships burned in the distance, Captain Hall stood, in silence, watching the devastation unfold. The war was not over, but humanity had proven that it could hold its ground. The message had been sent. Earth was no longer a forgotten, weak planet. It was a force that would never be underestimated again. And as the Alien Council regrouped, licking their wounds, Earth's war machine stood ready. The battle had just begun. The dust had settled, but the tension in the air was palpable. Earth's flagship floated in the cold silence of space, its weapons still humming with the residual energy of the final pulse. The alien fleet had been obliterated, reduced to drifting remnants of twisted metal and shattered hulls. But Captain Jake Hall knew this was far from over. The galaxy was not one to forgive quickly, and now that humanity had shown its power, the real challenge was just beginning. "Captain," Lieutenant Sanya's voice broke the silence, her eyes scanning the vast expanse of space. "The last of their fleet is retreating. We've made our mark, but we're not out of the woods yet." Hall didn't respond immediately. He was watching the remains of the enemy ships, his face etched with determination. "They'll be back. We've made our statement. But the galaxy won't forget this easily," Sanya nodded. "We need to prepare for their retaliation." The crew worked swiftly, reinforcing the ship's defenses and analyzing the wreckage of the alien fleet. Humanity had proven itself capable, but one victory didn't guarantee survival in the harsh, unpredictable universe. Hall's mind raced as he considered their next move. He knew the Galactic Council would not rest until they had wiped out the threat Earth now posed. "Captain," Sanya's voice was tight with urgency, "we've received a communication. It's from the Galactic Council." Hall's eyes narrowed. He had expected this. The Council's response was inevitable, and they would want to address humanity's defiance. "Put it through," he ordered. The screen flickered to life, displaying the image of the Krylos counselor, his eyes cold and calculating. The Vraxa counselor stood behind him, his face twisted with fury. Their appearance on the screen was no longer one of mockery or arrogance, but of a grudging respect, mixed with anger. "You've made your point, human," the Krylos counselor said, his voice clipped. "But you've made a grave mistake. We underestimated you, but that will never happen again. The full might of the Galactic Council will come for you. You will not be allowed to remain a threat." Hall stood, his face impassive. "You thought Earth was destroyed," he said evenly. "You thought the war machine was a myth. You were wrong. Now the galaxy will know that humanity is not to be trifled with." The Krylos counselor sneered. "Your time is limited. We will rebuild. And when we return, Earth will fall." Hall's gaze never wavered. "You can try, but you won't succeed." There was a long pause before the counselor spoke again, his tone laced with bitterness. "We will see how long you can survive without the resources of the galaxy behind you. Prepare for your extinction." The screen went black, leaving the crew in a heavy silence. Sanya turned to Hall, her face marked by both concern and respect. "They won't give up. What now, Captain?" Hall's eyes were fixed on the screen where the council had just disappeared. His voice was calm, but there was a steely edge to it. "We rebuild, we strengthen, and we make sure the next time they come, they understand that Earth is not just a planet to be ignored. This war is far from over. Far across the galaxy, the remnants of the Galactic Empire were already preparing for another strike. The councillors were furious, humiliated by Earth's unexpected resilience. The fleets were rebuilding, and new weapons were being developed with one goal in mind: to finish what they had started. But they were not prepared for the one thing humanity had that they didn't: resolve. Back on Earth, Captain Hall watched as the crew worked tirelessly to prepare for the future. The message was clear: Earth had become a power, not just in the eyes of the galaxy, but in its own right. And this time, the galaxy would have to reckon with humanity. "Sir," Sanya said quietly, "we're ready. The ship, the crew, the weapons, they're all prepared for whatever comes next." Hall nodded. "Then let's make sure the galaxy knows that Earth's silence was never weakness. It was strategy, and we will fight, no matter the odds." The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity was no longer a forgotten species, lost in the void. Earth had shown its strength, and the galaxy would never forget it.